There we go. Okay. Now, let's introduce Lauren. So Lauren Theresa, pronouns she, her, is a queer divergent poet, plant witch, professor, and archetypal psychotherapist living in a New York City-ish corner of New Jersey with her tiny family and menagerie of plants. She is a poetry editor for Olney Magazine, co-founder of Icebreakers Lit, and the author of Lost Things Out from Bullshit Lit Now. We'll have the link for that in the chat. Her work has appeared in literary journals, as well as her own refrigerator, Awkward Family Gatherings, and that publications tab at laurentheresa.com.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. And thank you, all of you, for being here. I'm having a blast just looking at the screen. So yeah, it's awesome to see you all. And let's get weird. Okay, this first poem is called Putrefaction. It is a variation of a poem that wound up being shortlisted over at Bear Creek Gazette for their Gutters competition. And we're gonna just kind of start with some decay and alchemy and all that good stuff. Putrefaction. Keep your mind in the gutter because that's where they'll never find you. The scrawl and muck, the shit of the earth swept up with decaying leaves and animal carcass, mixed with the rain they take shelter from. Burrow yourselves in the places that hold their fear and revulsion. Let the dirt saturate your clothes and settle deep into the folds of your skin as your sweat and spit and tears flow and become one with the prima materia, allowing the sweet decay to make rise for fermentation, the 7 processes of alchemy unfolding before their eyes until you rise screeching, "Primavera, I am reborn," and watch them all turn their gaze, parting with fervor as you lay to rest on the dry ocean bed before you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I will pass this over to Adrian Dallas Frandle. Adrian Dallas Frandle, pronouns they, he, is a queer fish who writes poems to and for the world about its future. They're poetry acquisitions editor for Variant Lit Mag and Press, and poetry first reader for Pigeonholes and OK Donkey Lit Mag. Best of the Net 2022 nominee. Find their work online at adriandallas.com.
Thank you, Lauren. Oh, wow. What an incantation, the sweet decay. So when we were putting this all together, I had something that I'm working on from a manuscript that seemed to be sort of in response to the spell cast by Lauren. So I knew immediately where I wanted to go with that. So this one is called Yesterfox Nocturne, and it's about 3 foxes who used to live in the area who I have not seen since. And I had discussed sort of what I thought happened with them. So I'll let this go. This is Yesterfox Nocturne. The sun simmered out in the sound. Darkness hounded the sky and chased away the stars. There used to be at least 3 red foxes who lived here. The neighbor says they perished from mange. There was nothing we could do. She swilled from beneath the bar's neon moon and noted as she downed another shot that she'd heard tell of some cure too difficult to administer. A catch in her voice chased the Jameson. Wet gold threaded her throat. For a moment, her chest crested with warmth. We sipped, oh, sorry, I lost it there. We sipped more and spoke of how they traversed always toward sunset across the yard, east to west, and then would disappear into the stony beachhead. Recalled their yips, tenuous jaws around the wind, like it slipped from their throats, an unspooling end to a reel of lost archival footage. Unseen film, soundless, out of time, unfurled down my spine, projected on so much white space. I imagine they died in those rocks, their den petrified. I imagine the mother fox would have gathered her children to give them a soft place to end. She would have licked with care behind each soft, cold ear. Then she would lay down her head beneath the granite canopy of bone trees to wait for death. In the late night of the world would spring a matted green flourishing, each maggot transmogrified back to golden marrow. Fungal filaments would sow their filigrees, voids would close, and skin would begin to reflesh, all in brilliant feral red, beckoning toward the way out, past the tide and its pull on the horizon, through bone light to the new clearing made for them. I tried to tell her then I would stay and love, even if they had not left. Thank you, thank you. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Adrienne Crezo. As her bio will let you know, or not her bio, her Twitter handle will let you know, Crezo, that rhymes with creep show. And so we're bringing the spookiness to this reading. But Adrienne Crezo, she, her, is an editor, writer, and Tin House poetry scholar of Comanche descent. She is the editor-in-chief of the newly revived Sledgehammer Lit and an associate poetry editor at Pigeonholes and a poetry reader at OK Donkey and Kissing Dynamite. She has also managed to find a way to conjure extra hours in the day and week within which to read all of these things. Adrienne, I will hand it over to Adrienne for the next reading.
Thank you, Adrienne. That was very exciting. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow you, but I will do my best 5 times in a row. So this next poem is called Canines. It is one of my oldest poems. It initially started as 2 very long drafts and then became 1 slightly better draft, and then became a kind of thorn in my side for several months, and I couldn't make it work. And somehow earlier this week, I thought of the thing that I think has fixed it. I guess somebody here will let me know if that's not the case. If you decide to do that, please be private, like when you message that. And I would like briefly to share my screen with you so that you can see the shape of this, because that is part of the figuring out part. But it looks like my screen sharing, here we go. Can you see that? So this is Canines. It is shaped something like a tooth. This one is on submission, so try not to screenshot it. Okay, Canines. Asleep, bared teeth, he dreams of wolves, distant, pale-eyed cousins, gifted him an urge to circle round before lying down at my feet. And why shouldn't he dream of ancestors, instinct, dreams big as mine, full as we both are, with histories, concrete, bludgeoned into our genes. He dreams of tearing apart a soft, swift feast, the growl behind his black lips a warning shot, a sound without translation, a rhyme for the scream I hide in my own throat. I contain my own bad wolf in an apron sewn from a bolt end, self-domestication, under the house coat, under these ribs, feral, latent, many-clawed, the cusp of escape, gnawing away, gnawing away. And I also want to mention that one line of that is borrowed from The Edible Woman by Margaret Atwood. And now I have the pleasure of handing this one over to Lauren.
Thank you. I love that one so much. It's hard not to just turn on the mic and compliment you guys. That would be weird. Thank you. So the next poem I'm going to read is from my book that actually just came out. I have a copy of it that disappears into the background, spookily. Lost Things, and thank you. And I know like a bunch of you have actually already read it, which is pretty surreal and awesome. But Lost Things is a micro memoir, kind of told all through prose in a not linear, not quite cyclical pattern that's broken up by with a kind of old Brooklyn Italian incantation to St. Anthony. So, and the whole tone of it is really kind of about going back in and finding the parts of yourselves that were lost or buried or kicked out for various reasons, and holding all of that and the magic in it. So this one is 12. I'm gonna actually read it straight from the book. And it starts actually with Tony, Tony, come around, something's lost and can't be found. 12. 7th grade, I got my period. It was crappy then, just an inconvenience, but I became friends with Lauren Hallahan because she also hated it. I was an altar server and had bangs. I wore my hair in a ponytail with scrunchies, but not the cool kind of scrunchies. The kind that my mom got from Kmart that didn't have nearly enough fluff. That kind of just hung there heavy on my sprayed back hair with a bead that didn't make any sense. I was friends with Maeve, who was the coolest, especially because she didn't think she was at all. Her hair was free and curly. She had acne and an artist mom. She initiated me into witchcraft by staring at an orange for 7 minutes and listening to a mixed cassette of Ani DeFranco for the first time. And I never stopped listening to Ani DeFranco after that first time. We used Nair and made blowtorches from Aquanet and lighters. We listened to more Ani DeFranco. I loved her, and I loved Ani DeFranco. We both got confirmed at our Catholic junior high later that year. Confirmation was weird, and we laughed about it being weird, and we imagined the ridiculous names we would add into our own. She was allowed to have hers named after a fruit. Mine was Antoinette, after St. Anthony, the patron saint of lost things. Thank you. And now I will hand it over to Adrian.
Thank you, Lauren. I think we're all friends because, none of us did stop listening to Ani DeFranco. That all makes sense. It's all coming together. This one is just, I have a series of poems that I like to call fruitful mishearings. So they're sort of when I jumble things up, which happens pretty frequently. So that's where I got the first line of this poem, which is interesting because I don't know what I was supposed to have heard instead. So, Widow's Walk. They step dramatically on the balcony and proclaim, I bet he smells like baby powder and violence. No, I bet he smells like Old Spice and lidocaine. I wager he feels like a statue or like bad weather. It seems he'd taste like marbled Sweetwater and plush or like salt sea. I guess his senses are as night cat to trail cam and that he dances directions home like a good worker bee. It's probable he only sounds howlish when his voice is much more manifal, more soft breathing marine snow. Likely vision blurs inside him like whiskey. Think he burns with the intensity, with the blue intensity of blubber, hiss of gas lamps sputtering. He is the swirl of fog in the streets, whose hands are these in the mist before me. Thank you, thank you. For our next one, I will just pass it on over to Adrian. We're just going to keep rotating on through now that we've got the introductions out of the way, so we can just go for it. Adrian, you're up.
I'm up. Thank you. This next one is called Murder Witness. It was just picked up by Great Lakes Review for the Indigenous issue forthcoming later this year. This poem, like several things I've written, borrows a line from a documentary. In this case, it's an episode of Blue Planet. It also marries that with an actual event that I witnessed myself in the woods behind my house. Murder Witness. Every day I walk my dog in the woods, and without fail, I'm afraid I will find a body. Blame unsolved mysteries, blame serial killers for the specificity. Late morning from my balcony overlooking the newly sprung woods, I spot a northern harrier, so still and beige it reveals itself only in relief. Swinging branches behind. 7 crows swoop in, cawing, a bawling coven coalescing in this hawk-shaped whistle note, call ringing through the naked canopy. 10 crows, now they are a mob, attacking the intruder. A corvid knows its enemy on sight untold, never forgets, and I, squinting through the sun, wrapped or wrapped up in the spectacle of their plummeting, circling the O of my mouth as the tearing echoes back, rufous feathers pillowing still bare treetops, clattering blue-black wings, beat no retreat, cast their shade deep into the understory, and then a final clarion sharpens into silence. 84 degrees, swarming gnats, a full season early. There is a body in the woods, and I, the only witness of this murder, have shown the killers my face. I'm going to pass it back to Lauren.
Thank you. It doesn't matter how many times I've heard that. I get chills literally every single time I hear that. And at the end, so let me collect myself for a moment. Okay, thank you, Adrienne. The next poem I'm going to read is called Motels, kind of along the same lines as, similar lines as the things we find in the woods and the crevices. And this one was actually published in Maudlin House a few months back. And okay, read it. Motels. Motels are made for poets, or maybe they're the result of a world without them. Crevice streams collecting leaves and remnants of gas station binges. Long crumbling stretches slicing through memories of a natural world. Staring out the window, eyes reeling my heartbeat into another flat roof with too many doors, and another, and another. The pits in my chest jerk and start to crack open, making way for the baby born here that shouldn't have been born here. Small shells cupped to the ground, revealing something beautiful and grotesque, the lingering taste of citrus and cardboard, sticky residue on fingers and pastries that were never quite fresh and never quite stale. Opening to concrete walls containing that which cannot be contained. Mired by cheap landscape portraits adorning broken shrines and the alchemy of refreshing stale ash with fire. These spaces pass as slices of film, reeling me back into the moments when this was all a dream and back to the moment when it wasn't. Thank you. It gets chills almost as she gets them. Thank you, Adrienne. All right, I'm gonna move pass the mic on to Adrienne.
Thank you. Me again already. Wow, I love that, Lauren, your plant keeps popping into bless you behind. I love it. It's great.
I told you, this is like my plant throne. I should just into the image.
Wonderful. Well, mine, I chose to do one also about the woods next, so we'll just stay in sort of spooky woods. This is from a series of poems I've sort of been obsessed about, especially in the modern world, about what we ask animals to mean for us, and what animals mean to us, and sort of the violence inherent in that. And also sort of the no other, the inevitability and love in that as well. So this is called Desire Lines. The title refers to desire paths, game paths, deer paths, these sort of natural pathways and roadways that the fauna make and that we make as we go throughout life. So, Desire Lines. I was thinking more techne than logos when we talk about articulation, the weight of intricate parts fitted just so. Language like the deer path that runs under the freeway near the house my parents tend in the woods. Ley lines drawn out, then drawn over, the net product finely woven into a matrix that we can measure our purity against. Animals that we are wont to be are the creatures that know desire lines by heart. Instinct in these dog days seems reputable enough. But the souls we want to inhabit always become hawks and horses, beasts we find noble because we can look them in eyes that we feel resemble our eyes, and picture our eyes at home under fur or feather. Imagine the distances ventured under every noonday sun, the hunt, the satisfaction of care for those you love, the soft understanding of branch or underbrush as hostel and hospice. Muscles tensed, pupil dazzled, we bask in beautiful lights twinned and rushing forth, unlike prey, who run away, not toward, but so much like a god who we never see, but will meet head on. It's why we run. Thank you. And let's see, I will pass this one on over to Adrian.
Thank you. I lost the mute button for a second while I was looking for what I'm supposed to read next. Oh, okay. So this is called Disaster Painting number 1. And again, I'm going to briefly share my screen here so that you can see it. This one is something I do a lot. I guess it would be technically a collage. It's a kind of a cento, where each bit of the poem is pulled from a different published poem. Okay, bats ripen like fruit in the lava fields. The dead are as lilies in wind. Before the apocalypse, there was the apocalypse of lungs that rise and fall. The painter arranges cadavers, welds this dust of bright smoke in the sun thaw. Creation's favorite color of chaos. Brush fires and bones and volcanic glass, all creeping clouds, vain, flame along the ridgeline around the slow moon, laboring over the hillside. There is no other. We are brief as apple blossom, brief solitude before the human storm replaces the horizon. Paint a picture. On my face, pastoral stillness, amidst terror, surrounded by broken levee water, a flood unhymned by time. Find me humming through the heavy cough, mistake that earthquake for a passing train. And in the chat here, I will share the list of poets those pieces of poems come from. In the meantime, I'm going to pass it back to Lauren.
Thank you. So the next piece I'm going to read will kind of segue into the final curses for the evening. This is a poem, prose poem called Open Vessels, and it is actually a part of a chapbook that I've been working on called All the Ways I Killed Myself When Killing Myself Didn't Work. And it is similar in tone to Lost Things, where it's kind of broken up by a invocation to angels, like an angel prayer, and then it kind of just descends from there. And I will start. Open Vessels. Old Italian grandmothers will tell you, always close the toilet seat. Purse on the floor, money out the door. Eat, protect yourself, protect yourself. But old Italian grandmothers are dying and no one's sharing their stories of shadow. No one warns of spiritual warfare anymore. They don't tell you that if you begin protection spells too late, everything around starts to break. Turkish glass, light bulbs, relationships. Churches stop sermons of false idols, maybe because they're tired and no one's listening, maybe because they're already here. Decades of opening, shimmering exit doors, sealing cognizance with vision, tiny humans playing hide and seek, retinas fixed on light causing eyes to degenerate in time, forgetting that staring at a glow is the best way to lose your night vision. Vision that doesn't notice the trickster in the room because it doesn't realize angels can be something in disguise. It doesn't remember angels can be anything. It doesn't notice that when the owl appears and the glass starts to break, when the lights turn off and on and the tarot tells you threat is afoot, that the monster may have been here all along, allowed through all the doorways you left open, growing in the corners you trained yourself not to see. It never opens to the possibility that the call could be coming from inside the house. Thank you. Okay, and now I will hand it over to Adrian.
So good. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. The next one I'm going to read was in, I think it was the February issue of Tramp Set. It's called Left on Prospect. And it was a very eventful Valentine's occasion. You shall see. Left on Prospect. Nothing converts one to an augur faster than an abdominal ultrasound on Valentine's Day. Anointed into the priesthood of interpretation with one swipe of warm gel to the belly. Or perhaps it was the juvenile eagle one would be tracking on one's drive home from the appointment. Maybe one would watch it circling and slow down the car to try and snap a picture. The danger meager, the situation benign, there are a few other cars. One would become enwrapped with its form cutting the sky, taken up in its gorgeous plumage modeled like a border collie's brindled coat. One would continue and keep pace down Stratford Road. One would take a left on Prospect and marvel as it intersects with two white-capped adults dangling a snake and vying for sustenance. One might stop the car and check that no one else was watching. One may gasp as the trio pulses and dips in and out of view, only to surface again above the gables and trees, not struggling. One would be ashamed to see a family sharing and assume it was violence, as if nature cared for results or difference. One could read the signs in one's own entrails that morning. Look closely, the eye of the ultrasound, sharp as an eagle's. And I will hand it over to Adrian. Thanks.
Thank you. This one is, yeah, okay. So I almost changed my mind. It almost read something different, but I'm going to read this one, which is, the only thing you need to know about it is that a bleeding title is one that reads directly into the first line of the poem. This is something I do very often because I'm terrible at titles. So I write a complete poem, I move the first line to the top, I make it bold, and I move along, and everybody thinks that I work really hard on that, and the reality is that I never do, except this time. So this time I did it intentionally. This is I Bleed So Much, Even This Title. This appeared in Stanchion Zine, issue number 8. I'll drop the link in at the end for you. I bleed so much, even this title has dragged a rust-red streak along the first line. I don't remember the first time I woke up bleeding into the sheets, or a time before I knew what it meant to bleed from the mouth, the shapes of missing teeth, somehow sharper in their absence. A time when I hadn't paid with my knees for what my tongue couldn't afford, gravel on the tile floor, a reminder that some bones are easily exposed. And so it goes every time I bleed so much I any rhyme that doesn't gush, doesn't stain, doesn't push past the edges of the pad, only barely hiding beneath little more than a sheet and a prayer, just air and all this blood lost between us. And I'm handing it over to Lauren after this is the part where I explain the next part. Yes, thank you, Adrian. So this next part is wildly experimental. I was having a conversation with the poet Ben Klein, who used a very interesting phrase you might have seen in a tweet. He said, Appalachian rot curse, which was a phrase I badly needed to hear in his voice. So I asked him to write a poem. Impossibly, he did actually write a poem and send it to me, and then gave me a challenge to write a curse. And I, being entirely unwilling to do anything on my own, asked Adrienne and Lauren to also write curses so that we could read them for this. So these next 3 poems were written in the last 24 hours. This is not how this normally happens, but we're going to do it anyway. And Lauren, you are up first. Let's get cursed.
All right. What is a curse really though, right? Yeah, no, this worked out really well too, because I work a lot with themes of Hecate and Enodia. Actually, I ran a psychotherapy practice named Enodia for the better part of the last decade, before shifting into the next chapter. And I was surprised actually because the archetype or goddess, however you want to call, of Nick Niven had come back. I don't know if that's something that resonates with anyone. But anyway, I was kind of writing from that place, and this kind of came through, and I'm just going to let this simmer. So the working title, but this one's called Bay Leaves and Bullets. A curse, or a blessing, or both. When the raven screams sharp on wire, and the voices come back through the walls. When geese call out my name, the breeze is ready for descent. Gather your leaves of bay, of lavender and ash, Damiana to awaken, encircle him in salt to bind. Tongue the seeds of cardamom and palm, membranes gaze deep blue. Let your eyes fall out to my plate and remember. Forage leaves when pointed sharp, when berries drip blood seduction. Seed pods puncture the home of your gin, all of it finally unsealed. Close your eyes now and remember, the falling part is fun. The leap into laws and science and gravity holding as it should. Hear the sounds past decay from the static, divination in wind and bird. Letting rolls alchemize in the bread box as sky returns pixelated cloud fire. And then you stop, sinking into amniotic waters. When you find yourself buried in the bottom of a volcano, believing you've been left for dead, remember, my darling, you were incubating. And now on to Adrian.
Lauren, amazing. Yes, so when I got this call, as it were, the call to curse from Adrian, I sort of was on a walk and immediately got to it. And we were talking about rooting it somewhat in place, and the 2 sort of most influential places to me are where I grew up, Santa Cruz. So that's to me redwoods and salt, the Pacific, and the body. So that's the place we carry with us. So and then I thought about what I would want to curse people with, and the only real pain I would want to give willingly to others would be sort of the pain of nostalgia of having to leave such a beautiful place and a beautiful body. So here we go. So it's kind of a curse and a wish at the same time. This is called Bloodloam Salt Curse. With drawn up spit from the boot, with semen and tension spilled on the dark duff like windfall, drafted unto the powers and summoned from penumbra of cologne and pit sweat, this blood-loam curse which unbinds the land from its thirst of wretched creatures and their wretched need, feasting beneath the voyeur canopy and its fool's crown of dwindling spires. With concoction imbibed to divorce desire from its death-born shores, with licked cragged heels of the coast, carving their brutal arches from stone, I curse you to channel and canal the sky, to runnel thunder down the soft glade of your spine, and always be torn into night along a saw-toothed horizon, your memories unstitched and perpetually reparted each night by the cold steel sickle of the moon and then salted through with stars. Thank you, thank you. And now we are on another final curse, another curse, right? Adrienne, take it away.
This is the final curse. This is the final curse, and this is also a failed curse. This is again following the challenge based on the place that I grew up, which is very rural areas of Southwest Oklahoma. And the only thing that all of those very small towns in the place I'm from have in common is that they are adjacent to an area called the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Reserve. And inside this particular area, you find a lot of animals that are not outside of a nature refuge. But it also happens to overland with the historical land of Comancheria. All of my family live there. And so this is a particular place that I spent a big portion of my life in. There are some phrases in here that refer to specific locations within the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge. If you don't know them, they just sound like cool mystical things, but they're real places. So this is written today, again, failed dirt curse in refuge. When controlled burns light on the horizon and the bagworm tree looses its needles into the clay, dig a trench knuckle deep in the soil of the parallel forest. Bury here your baby teeth and a handful of locust shells plucked from bricks, the head of a horny toad removed in battle by a box turtle, a ball-peen hammer, a broken bone, a spiral cord cut from the kitchen phone, and 5 pennies, one for each of your birth years. Grandma says curses are a white man lie. Call it a time capsule instead. Cover it with dirt from behind the empty doghouse marked Beaster, where the cross of the chain and its post make an offering. Sacred soil. Drown it in a thermos full of water from the neighbor's hose. Wonder at the scarcity of mud in a place full of dirt, how nothing is washed away. Dirty is a word that means heathen, that means the God's eye is in everything, even the black soles of your feet, the gravel always threatening your knees, the thirst that steals your voice so strangers believe you cannot speak, and sometimes so do you. Not every sweet root springs a sweet grass, they say, an excuse his mother finds useful. At the 40-foot hole, drop your treasured pink quartz into the greening water and wait to fall in, hands clasped in devotion, to force, to fire and rain, to something in the distance ignoring your upturned mouth. At the holy city, blister your back while praying for your mother, to torch the whole damn house, or for enough water to drown one man. Forehead pressed to the window, scan the wall cloud for faces on your way home. Find Mary or Guadalupe or the Father who will never leave, though God knows you tried, burnt, treasureless, no teeth left to give the earth.
Yes.
Had to mute myself to take a breath. So that technically was our last poem. We do have in our pockets each a 6th piece to read. If you guys want to stick around for a few more minutes, we will happily do that for you, but we don't want to keep you if you're not interested. So if not, sneak out. If so, let's do number 6, and I will pass it over to you, Lauren.
Oh, nothing can come after that. I swear, the more like I've heard that a few times, and every time I hear it, it's like even more of a visceral impact. That is incredible, Adrian. Okay, I do have, I mean, all right. I do have one more if we want to do like kind of another piece. So, okay. Kind of continuing, I love the theme of decay. I know that's the decay and putrefaction, and like that whole process was coming up so often for all of us, actually. And I love the beauty in that, where it's like it's cyclical, that there is no kind of ending beginning, that it is both. So I'm going to read something that brings in decay again, a short piece that was actually published in Olney's anthology before I was working with them. And it kind of details the dark place, but the place in between realizing that something is wrong, and the place in between realizing that and doing something about it. So this one's called Soft Fruit. I throw the peaches in a bag, along with the zucchini that squishes under the pad of my small finger. I think about how poets write about their mothers, how daughters preserve them in still life, beautiful and grotesque. I think about how I am now that mother, how my children will write about me. Waves of panic and shame as I pick up the pieces, heavying the plastic bag that will heavy the trash, the weight of which will make it impossible to miss what happened here. It's subtle, the pale green dancing on the lemons. 3 half-eaten loaves of bread. Nothing fully turned, nothing overtly sick, except maybe the zucchini, except maybe me. Wondering which of these I am. Wondering which soft fruits will make it into the memoirs of my daughters. Thank you. And I will move it on to Adrian. And thank you all for being here.
All right, Lauren, thank you. It's been the other like bonus besides all the wonderful poetry is that I've got to spend like a bunch of hours with these two this week, which has just been wonderful and soul feeding. So this last one I'm going to read is called Night Processional. It is from a chap that I have out now, out for submissions, and just finished up on my dental misadventures. So if you like, dental poetry, the genre of, then maybe there will be something for you soon. So this one is Night Processional. Another dream where I pull them off me. These are the days endless with ticks and bruxism, the grinding season, when the wheat of my teeth are separated from the chaff. Who was it that asked, "Why do you do this to yourself?" Oh, that was me. My words sanding down molars into flat plains, prairie dog burrowed through with worry, hides bejeweled by Lone Star ticks taking in their fill, making new life. Parasite metaphors burrow into crevices, into blood, to blood, this discourse between my lips and behind the eyes. Lenses grinding to dust, then wind blown from fields of vision. Sight too flees into the tall phosphine grass. Words crest a single blade, arms wide, they are sentenced to questing for sustenance, as we all do in sleep. In dreams, it is impossible to read. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Love it. I'm going to pass it over to Adrian for the final go.
Right. I am really excited to have all of you here. This is so much fun for us. This last piece is not related to literally anything that we have read so far. So this is a piece, it's sort of an ekphrastic for the documentary series Skinwalker Ranch. This, along with a couple of other pieces you heard earlier tonight, and some more in the works, are part of a chapbook that I'm putting together called You, Me, and the Man in This Documentary, which borrow lines or describe scenes or in some way inspired by different documentaries I have seen, which means I can write about everything all the time. So this is Reasonable Precautions. Each of these brave men is armed with a semi-automatic rifle, body armor, a handgun, a taser, and the night. I'm going to start over. Each of these brave men is armed with a semi-automatic rifle, body armor, a handgun, a taser, and night vision gear. They have a mission: secure this property, hunt and subdue interlopers, record every move. A central room houses a suite of displays: real-time video, heat map, weather data, air traffic, and along the perimeter, cameras, electrical fencing, razor wire, motion sensing alarms, and guards standing ready every 10 yards, each prepared and eager to lie in a whirlwind of bullets along a wall designed to eviscerate the soft tissues of a living body. All for the intended audience of this hour-long documentary about a ranch long rumored to be haunted by malevolent spirits and maybe a few coyotes. And that's it. That was a lot of fun. I'm really glad to have you guys here. If you would like a copy of the recording, you can find one of us on Twitter or our emails or whatever, and we'll get it out to you sometime this week. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Remember
That
to save a
was so
copy of the
fun.
transcript if you'd like one.
This is awesome.